Welcome to Buy or Buy, the show that digs deep to help you decide what's actually worth your money. Today, we are tackling an absolute legend, the C7 Audi RS7. And let's be real, this isn't just a car. It's a German supercar slayer wrapped in this stunning four-door fastback body, and it promises to do it all. But does that promise hold up after a whole lot of depreciation? Should you actually pull the trigger on one? Well, let's find out.
I mean, just look at these specs. The numbers are just staggering. The top dog performance model is pushing 605 horsepower, and that's coming from a twin-turbo V8 that, it shares with cars from Bentley and even the Lamborghini Urus. And of course, it puts all that power down through the legendary Quattro all-wheel drive system, which makes it an absolute weapon in any weather. This is the real deal, folks. Supercar territory.
And here it is. This is the hook. This is the price of admission. You can find early models of this six-figure beast for as little as 35 grand. That is an almost unbelievable amount of performance for the money. I mean, it's easily one of the most tempting used cars on the entire market today.
And yeah, that right there is the multi-thousand-dollar question, isn't it? Because when a car that started life at over $130,000 loses almost 100 grand in value, there are always reasons. The price to get in the door might be low, but the price to stay in the door, well, that's a completely different story. And that's exactly what we're going to break down.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the allure. What makes this car so darn special. Then, we'll dive right into the mechanical realities of that engine and drivetrain. After that, we'll uncover the big money problems that can absolutely sink an owner. Then, we'll give you a rock-solid pre-purchase checklist. And finally, we'll deliver the verdict. Is the RS7 a buy or a buy?
All right, let's kick things off with the good stuff. Why is this C7 RS7 so incredibly desirable in the first place? What's the magic here? It's really because this car might just be the ultimate do-it-all machine. You get that incredible 4-liter twin-turbo V8, and it's hooked up to a super robust ZF 8-speed automatic that's a smooth torque converter, not a jerky dual clutch. Plus, you get the all-weather safety net of Quattro all-wheel drive. All that means 0 to 60 happens in about 3.5 seconds. But the real magic trick? It's that sportback body. The huge hatchback in the rear makes it genuinely practical for daily life in a way that, let's face it, no traditional supercar could ever dream of. And this right here, this is the opportunity. Massive depreciation, it's the great equalizer, right? It takes a car that was once only for the super rich and puts it right within reach. But, and trust me, this is a big but, it does not get rid of the six-figure running costs that come with it. So let's get into what those costs actually look like.
All right, let's move on to the heart and soul of this car. We're going to talk about the engine and the drivetrain, where there's some really good news and some very expensive but pretty predictable news.
Okay, first things first, you can take a deep breath. The core 4-liter twin-turbo V8, the EA824, is an absolute workhorse across the entire VW group. It is mechanically stout. There are no widespread, catastrophic, engine-exploding failure modes to worry about. Even its fancy cylinder-on-demand system, which shuts down half the engine to save fuel, has proven to be reliable. It's a fundamentally good engine.
But, and you knew there was a but, robust does not mean cheap. Welcome to what we like to call the RS tax. These aren't issues of if they'll happen, but when. And they are absolutely not optional if you want the car to actually work right. Just think of these as your scheduled, very expensive maintenance items.
Now what this shows you are the totally predictable costs of owning this car. Because it's a direct injection engine, it's going to need its valves cleaned of carbon buildup every 60 to 80,000 miles. The high-pressure fuel pumps can eventually give out, and here's a big one. Audi says the transmission fluid is lifetime. It is absolutely not. It needs to be serviced or you risk a very expensive torque converter shutter. Even the Quattro system has its own wear items like seals and clutches. These are the realities you can and should budget for.
Okay, so those were the known things you can plan for. Now let's talk about the financial landmines. These are the parts that can turn an affordable RS7 into an absolute money pit. And guess what? They are almost all guaranteed to fail at some point.
There is one system above all others, that can turn this dream car into a financial nightmare. It is hands down the most common and the most expensive wear and tear failure on this entire platform.
Yep, it's the standard adaptive air suspension. Now, it gives the car a fantastic, comfortable ride, but the air struts themselves are basically consumable parts. The rubber bladders that hold the air, they just dry out, they crack over time, and they start to leak. It's not a question of if it will fail, it's just a matter of when.
And to replace just one of those air struts at a good independent shop, you're looking at about $2,500. And here's the kicker. When one goes, the other three are usually right behind it.
Oh, and it gets worse. When a strut starts leaking, the air compressor has to run non-stop to try and keep up, and eventually it just burns itself out. That's another $2,000. So a full system refresh can easily top $12,000. That's more than a third of the car's purchase price just on suspension.
And the big bills do not stop there. If the car has the optional carbon ceramic brakes, a full replacement can cost a jaw-dropping $25,000. No, that is not a typo. The infotainment hard drive can fail, that's a few thousand. Even the standard brakes are over $3,000 for a full job, and a set of good 21-inch tires will set you back at least $2,000.
Okay, so after all that doom and gloom, how on earth can you buy one of these safely? Well, you can, but you have to be disciplined. Think of this as your battle plan for telling the difference between a great car and a catastrophic mistake.
Okay, step 1. Full service history from an Audi dealer or well-known specialist is non-negotiable. If there's no history, you walk, period. Step 2. You need a receipt for a transmission service in the last 20,000 miles or so. 3. Proof of recent air suspension work is literally as good as gold. 4. Be honest with yourself. You have to budget $5,000 to $7,000 a year for maintenance. And finally, the most important one of all. You absolutely must verify that this critical safety recall has been done. It's recall number 74D5. The passenger occupant detection system, it's basically a sensor mat in the seat, it can fail. And if it fails, the passenger airbag might not deploy in a crash. An Audi dealer fixes this for free, but you have to make sure it's been done before you even think about buying. All right, let's put it all together. We've seen the mind-blowing performance, we've seen the brutal depreciation, and we've seen the potentially wallet-destroying running costs. So what's the final call on the C7 Audi RS7?
And this lays it out perfectly. There are two very different paths with this car. It's a buy if it has a perfect, verifiable history. The recall is done, the really expensive services like the transmission and air suspension have already been taken care of, and you have the budget for what's coming next. It is an immediate buy if it has no records, if you don't know the recall status, and especially if it's the absolute cheapest one you can find. If you are stretching your budget just to buy the car itself, you are setting yourself up for a financial disaster.
So our official verdict has to be maybe. Look, this just isn't a simple yes or no car. It can't be a definite buy when one example for sale is a documented turnkey supercar bargain and the one right next to it is a financial black hole just waiting to happen. The outcome depends entirely on the specific car and, probably more importantly, on how prepared you are as the buyer.
So what does it all come down to? The difference between owning your dream car and living a total nightmare isn't the price you pay up front, it's the paper trail. That service history tells you everything you need to know about where the car's been and, more importantly, what it's likely going to cost you in the future. The car will tell you its story. You just have to be willing to listen. Shop smart.